Good morning, good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you to the Operations Bridge 24.4 Release Readiness Webinar. My name is Thomas Klepsch, along with my colleague Malini Mohan and Harald Borose from Product Marketing. We will provide the webinar this evening or this day. So as always, we have 4 parts. First one is some housekeeping. Second is we will hand over to Harald to speak about the values and benefits. And then Malini and myself will cover the release details. And as always, during the session, please use the Q&A to ask questions. We have a look on it. And at the end, you also have the possibility to ask live questions. For those of you who have a long time here, you know this. Nevertheless, of course, I repeat it for those who are new. Slides and recording you can find later here in the Operations Bridge Tips and Information Community page. And we have hidden slides in our presentation because we have so much time that we can cover everything, and there you can find useful information. Some of the slides also have notes. During the webinar, which will be recorded, all lines are muted. During the session, please feel free to submit, as I said, question using the QA button or the QA tool. The QA, there will be a live Q&A at the end of the session. We will not record this. The microphones can be unmuted to ask a question. You have first to unmute on your side and then best raise the hand and then we can unmute on our side. When you look at the registration process, there's one step, one hint where you're asked whether you would like to be asked for this webinar only or for future webinars, as you see on the right side. If you select future webinars, then you will get an invitation a few weeks before. So this ensures that you don't have to remember, you get it automatically. When you do this, nevertheless, you have to register again. Yeah, just part of the process. And then you get confirmation, include the link to add the webinar to your calendar. If you choose this webinar only, you will not receive any further invitation mail. What is the Release Readiness Webinar for? It should help customers prepare for upcoming releases. The audience we see is business owners on one side to understand what is being introduced and especially what is the value of adapting the new capabilities. We also have technical practitioners. They want to understand the details of offering, implementation, and technical consideration. And OpenText partners and employees also attend in listen-only mode. The QA will be prioritized for customer questions. So internal and partner question will be covered during the field-only Q&A, which is starting 15 minutes after this session. Of course, everyone can ask, but priority has our customer. With this, I would like to hand over, or Harald, I can move the slides if you like.
Would be great. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, depending wherever you are in the world. Welcome to our 24.4 release highlights and other great release that we are able to introduce to the market. And as Thomas was saying, we have a lot of people on the phone, including some of my staff. If you have questions, just put them into the question manager and we'll be answering as good as we can throughout the session. So what is in 24.4? Thomas, next slide. Are a couple of enhancements specifically moving towards our observability platform. As we have been developing and introducing infrastructure observability, then application observability focused around our OpenTelemetry offering, we are introducing an end-to-end integration from network to application observability to really be able to quickly identify whether, as you are investigating a problem, you're actually having a network problem. Is, for example, your application is exiting to a database from a call perspective or another back-end service that it tries to communicate and traverse for that reason a standard network, or maybe whether the cluster that your application is running on having infrastructure problems. Being able to go directly in context as you're investigating that element takes the benefit of the application observability platform that we have been working on around the Optic Data Lake and the Optic One interfaces for you to deliver. The other piece is turning that observability next to the reactive element that we introduced as 24.3, where you basically have the ability to take OpenTelemetry elements, the data in order to identify problems in your application, to turn that into a proactive notion of observability by integrating it tightly with our synthetic monitoring around BPM. Utilizing BPM, identifying application health, scheduled ad hoc, and from there identify exactly the root cause. We're also further enhancing our AI capabilities around Aviator, where we're allowing not just operators, but also agents taking advantage on this. And we're doing it by integrating it tightly into enterprise processes in the customer, by basically attaching it and at first persisting and then attaching it to the event in the system, so that a person sitting in front of a ticketing solution can equally take advantage of the elements that we have been identifying as valuable remediation steps in the system to be followed. We're also expanding it from a use perspective to make it usable for our cloud infrastructure component with infrastructure observability, and be able to directly from there look at the specific cloud content and get guidance from a remediation perspective in order to understand what to do and how to follow up on the solution. When it comes to our overall stack, the observability platform, we are basically further enhancing the out-of-the-box dashboard that we are providing as an overview dashboard, as well as specific application dashboards. Those overview dashboards allow you to provide faster insight across multiple accounts in AWS and Azure from a planning perspective and insight perspective, as well as making sure that the dashboards that we provide from a application perspective are well integrated, such as WebSphere, Active Directory added specifically in this release, and give you not only just the out-of-the-box dashboard, but the ability to then customize it, change it, and more importantly, also be CI and downtime aware, that we synchronize with our data enrichment service into the overall platform and the data lake. Now, last but not least, enhancing our ability to increase noise from an AI perspective, taking advantage of the tech-based cross CIs, where we're creating CI collections based on tags inside the cloud, and be able to utilize those as a dependency understanding, in addition to the topology, in addition to the attributes in the event, as one element of knowing that things belong together and should be grouped together. Now, these are typically just 4 highlights that we're calling out from a solution perspective in this overview session that we go into detail. There are many more capabilities and features that we have in these releases, from an OBM content synchronization as an example, as well as 26 ideas that came from you and enhancement requests that we addressed into this specific release from a solution perspective. So let's dive into some of these key highlights in a little bit more detail, and then Thomas would go into the broad, as well as Marlene going into the broad overview from a solution perspective. So if you look into the observability without gaps on the next slide, the idea is really that we are able to very quickly identify the problem owner, and through that, as we are faster in avoiding the finger pointing as you're trying to solve a problem, actually improve the overall application uptime of your critical applications. Being able to directly understand, as you're navigating through an application problem, to look at the relevant network or cloud infrastructure is a key item. Understanding whether a specific call out to a database is taking specifically long because there is a network problem in the data path is hugely insightful from a investigation perspective. So not only utilizing the OTel-based natively correlated data points in terms of traces, metrics, and events, but also building on the observability platform and uniquely be able to go from network all the way up to the application is a key item. Now, as lot of these cloud native applications are typically managed by a SRE who owns that entire stack, watches the service level management, and then needs to, at the end, delegate to either the application infrastructure or a network owner to actually fix a physical problem. They can delegate with confidence, understanding very well from the different tooling, well integrated, where actually the owner of the problem should be and who should be focusing on the element in order to fix it. Last but not least, we're introducing a new overview page as a starting page that is focused around business, giving you quick insight and overview of your entire application landscape, identifying what are the applications which are the heavy hitters in terms of transactions, what are the heavy services hit the most in that application, and then if one of those have actually an issue, you very quickly are able to look into that and focus on those from an insight perspective, utilizing that to prioritize your overall work based on the business impact that would have. So having that new high density insight illustration as a starting point is a key item to understand and drill down into the relevant elements. Now, the other item on the application observability on the next slide is the integration into the synthetic monitoring. So as with synthetic monitoring, you can actually schedule it at any time, a synthetic transaction with the application. You can be proactive, as an example, at night, identifying when a new version maybe got uploaded, that something isn't working as planned. Or in some validation environment, be able to understand, is the user transaction as you anticipated to happen actually working in the way that you expected. Directly from the data where BPM already naturally sends the data into the observability platform, you can configure it through the central configuration interface, the MCC, as well as having the Flex dashboards to navigate through the data and understand application health, like the application health here over time. From there, you can then directly drill into the application understanding from a trace perspective to really quickly solve the problem. And if it is a scheduled element that maybe happens before users get online and start using the application, you can actually start solving the problem before the users get impacted, because those probes can be scheduled 7/24, and the root cause helps you very quickly to pinpoint the problem due to naturally correlated data points. The other element is that you're improving the problem isolation by able to actually understand, as you're coming from the synthetic element, very quickly the synthetic from the real user interaction, and focus thus on the right level as needed. Now, that takes our application observability to the next level from an offering perspective, as well as our application observability starting to deliver the value that we are aiming to deliver around the observability platform. Now, when I look at Aviator, a key element on the next slide is for us, as we introduced, to help you driving that remediation. Now, initially, it was all about interacting with Aviator in order to get help on the preloaded content or your own loaded content, and then understanding what exactly you should be doing or you should not be doing from a solution perspective. Now, with this release, we allow you to summarize that conversation, edit that conversation, save it, and attach it to the event, as well as future similar or same event, depending on attributes, or similarity scoring. So whenever the event comes in, that remediation is being added into the system. That makes sure that you can now either, as an operator inside of the event console, immediately get that instruction that was generated with Aviator be followed, or as you're attaching it to the event as a part of the processes following through, you can look at it in SMAX, or you can look at it in any other third-party ticketing tooling to follow those exact elements. We also expanded with your knowledge base, so that means we're not just using out-of-the-box build technology knowledge, but this could be very specific application knowledge that is important. For this specific Oracle instance, you need to contact a specific user in the element and mix that with that Oracle general information in order to have a combined answer that you can then summarize, save, and then attach from a solution perspective. So that overall enhances the productivity of your SMEs who typically are creating these knowledge-based articles much easier. You can expand into new content areas and make sure that really most of the things that routed through the system in the environment automatically have the right instructions added into the system immediately, speeding up again your overall productivity as a team. Next step here would be to automate some of those instructions and then be able to drive automation based upon that. Now, that is available from an AI operations management, but also from an infrastructure observability from a solutioning perspective, as I had on the same slide, which is primarily same use cases as you have here on this slide, maybe slightly different content from a Kubernetes as an example, rather than classical infrastructure components. Okay. The other piece is the insight into the overall data when it comes to making sure that we are providing good sample dashboard out of the box. We continue to expand that. We continue to expand the flow from an empty screen like the event directly into here, or the guided workflows that we have in infrastructure observability available, or from App.O coming to these overview screens if it's a specific cluster that something is running on, to basically get good overview and quick insight into the solution. Now we're providing additional overview dashboards for AWS and Azure accounts, which is across all of those accounts, a single insight across Azure Virtual Machine, Azure SQL databases or managed instances, or AWS S3 and AHD groups. So those are essentially additional cross-domain and cross-account reports that we are providing for faster actionable insight to basically understand utilization across those different accounts that you have in the company. Also supporting decision support, so that we are providing a good consolidated insight, including downtime awareness of, for example, Active Directory and WebSphere, which was added in this particular release from a solution perspective. Key on the Flex dashboard is really that they are context aware. We're taking the causal AI capabilities that our AI technology adds to the system, and that we enrich the optic data lake component with it, and as such then are able to filter those elements quickly as we navigate from the different places into these pre-built dashboards, in order to basically filter them for the relevant infrastructure components that are being utilized for that specific application or a group of CIs, tags, CI collections, depending on what the source is. Okay. Last but not least, a rather small thing to be announced coming up from a element perspective on the next slide is that as part of making sure that our naming is simple and descriptive, we are going through another name change, which officially externally will be announced at the OpenText World coming up, where I hope to meet some of you and get you physical into some of our sessions that we are running there, as well as demonstrating or doing hands-on labs from a solutioning perspective. Those naming changes, I think you already saw them throughout the year, where we changed up scope to infrastructure observability. From the beginning, application observability, as we introduced it, we adhere to that new naming from a solution perspective. And the only thing that is changing from an operations bridge perspective is actually that the operations bridge name, like Operations Bridge Suite, Operations Bridge Containerized, is changing to OpenText AI Operations Management. For this release, if you go to the doc portal, you're going to see both entries still available. So there's going to be an Operations Bridge 24.4, as well as a OpenText AI Operations Management 24.4. That's going to point both to the same source from a documentation perspective, and you'll see AI Operations Management. If you download the bits once they're available, online help will actually say also AI Operations Management after you install the containerized version. So that's why we thought it's important that we already now talk a little bit about it from a solution perspective, and you see the disclaimer that I put here on the top also be mentioned in the documentation. At this point in time, no change for individual products like SiteScope or Application Performance Manager. As an example, those stay as components of that premium or ultimate solution around the AI Operations Management component that we are delivered to the market. From an Operations Bridge Manager perspective, we are likely going to do a change in the 25.2 release. That's yet to be decided. And once that is there, we'll then be going through that list as we move forward to then map it better to the AI Operations Management naming that you see. With that, again, 20 minutes, typically the time slot that Thomas and Malani give me. And now let's go into the details. I think this morning I said Malani, but I think Thomas will take over and go into the details. Thomas, over to you.
Thank you very much. So let's have a look on the details. We will cover the 3 areas: AI Operations Management. You see I use the new names already. Infrastructure observability and application observability. We look into it while we go through this. Let's start with AI Operations Management. And here we focus first on operations management. You already have seen the dark theme was introduced step by step, and now we have nearly finished it. We have, you see some screenshots here for OBM. You can configure it for user settings, and you have the dark mode applies meanwhile to OBM UI, also including the administration and agent health view. It is also available for OBM on UIF. The UseMDB UI is not yet covered. I will give you in the next slide always a brief summary because of time reason, and tell you also when there is more information in the notes. Next topic is to synchronize downtimes between multiple OBM systems. You have seen that there was more regarding configuration of OBM systems, multiple OBM systems, and this is a further step. So synchronized downtime configuration between OBM system ensures events from CIs in downtime are processed in the same way. There is a configuration here in order to import and export the downtime. And when you select the downtime, you can see this here. It's based on creation and last modification time. You can export and import the downtime behavior via content packs. And you find very often the docs where there's a link behind, so we will provide them the material later on. The next one is there was always the ask to have the possibility to access all versions of a policy, also in the policy by template group view, to have a quick access. Before you needed to walk through different steps, and this is gone. The linking to template group is still on template level, so for not on specific version, and the hint shows up in link to template group dialog when you're there. We introduced case insensitive search with regular expression in event browser, and this improved the search capability, and it now supports case insensitive searches with regular expression. The case sensitivity can be controlled via options. Another enhancement is regarding troubleshooting support for OBM scripts. The script logs can now be monitored directly within the OBM script admin UI. New entries to scripts logs automatically to show up in the log viewer. We have it available for all script types: API, custom action, forwarding, and TBA. This is a special use case for SaaS where customers have no access to the file system. It simplifies troubleshooting, also in on-prem environment, and it's available for both classic and containerized OBM. There is an option to download logs in containerized OBM remains. Also here we have a doc. Change has been also a new offer regarding central license reporting. This consolidates the license management across multiple, and this important, multiple OBM using Autopass License Server, which is abbreviated later on as APLS. You see the respective slides on the right side. The license keys are first uploaded to the central license server, and OBM downloads licenses from APLS and sends usage data to central license server. The license report, users report, is available also on the LPS license in the usage UI. System licenses can be uploaded to APLS. We support OPSP Premium, Ultimate, and Premium SaaS. Currently, there is no support by OBM within OPSBridge, so the site scope is pending. APLS is now part of the Media Kit. Latest version 24.4 is required. We have added the RTSM view folder in the OBM role editor, as you see over here. This simplifies the configuration. Permission can be configured in OBM user role. The control hierarchical permissions on all views with the folder without the need to use USMDB local client. Also, this is especially useful for SaaS where USMDB user role cannot be configured directly by customers, sorry. New is the support of cloud text in CI Resolver. The cloud text in CI attributes can be used to improve the CI resolution. For example, for CIs with non-unique names. We have now the configuration option in the CI Resolver cache configuration. If TQL is used for CI resolution, tag attributes needs to be added to TQL query attributes, which you can see on the right side. And this is a preview to the Aviator part I cover later on. We have extended the instruction management. I will also show you a walkthrough on this later on. You can create new instructions in context of events via Event Browser context menu. You do your manage instruction in a dedicated UI, which you see on the right side, and map them to events using event filters or automatically similarity mapping. Policy-based instruction, which you know for a long time, as well as external instruction interfaces, can be used in parallel. And this is something I said here. Feature was developed in the context of Aviator, but can also be used without Aviator. Also, this will be shown. With this, I go to the next part. It's the operations agent. We'll start with the enhancement for the OPC GenAI policy health. You get more insight into the OPC GenAI policy health. Get information on data streaming status to ODL and OBM to integration use cases. The traceability to identify the data streaming failure reason to ODL OBM is also enhanced here. A lot of documentation on this. One more slides on this to describe what has changed. We enhanced the OPC GenAI for collecting and reporting policy health information into health view. Health details information is captured only for the below policy types, considering the integration use case. And there is a rich policy type supported by OPC GenAI. You see that there is a selection here, event from REST web service, and the general output REST web services you find over here. Logging of the failure is going into system TXT for all errors and acknowledging the same when the problems get resolved. And what is also improved, the corrective and suggested action in case of failures are captured. When you schedule a deployment, you normally have an interval, and when the interval is not reached yet, you have to wait until the scheduled task is is started or is executed. This is not so good, for example, if you would like topology information right at the beginning. So therefore, we made a change here. The schedule runs normally after completing the first interval, and the customer ask was here to run the schedule action at the start as soon as the policy is deployed. So the background here is that it helps to connect the team with the discovery getting executed immediately after the policy deployment. What has changed in order to make this happen? We added a new configuration parameter, you see over here, in the config file under the EAGT namespace, so that the schedule action is immediately triggered as soon as a policy is deployed. This one is only possible in the regular interval policies, for regular interval policies. More details here. For a long time, we have the OPC op in the operations agent. It was created, and nearly nobody uses it anymore. And there was the ask to remove this. And what has changed here in order to do it, and the configuration variable this is related to is with a product create default user, whose name was set to true by default. This was changed to false. Yeah? So if you would like to see it still, you have to manually change it to true in the agent profile and install the operation agent. The user will be deleted, and there's no policy for the user OPC user. OA is not running in non-privileged user mode with OPC op user. Important, very important at the Cloud Instance ID handling in AWS. You know that Cloud Instance ID uniquely identifies a CI, and this can resolve CI merge issues. The Cloud ID is published via a SSD. The Cloud Instance ID detection is now completed for AWS, Azure, and GCP. Regarding ASSD, you see that there's some additional interface metadata. I don't read it here, but you can see this as reference, and you also find the documentation. And the MAC address and network interfaces are filtered based on this particular variable. Here, some platform information. We will also update when product is released, our support matrix, also with this information. And with this, I coming to the Aviator for AI Ops. What I would like to show you, and for time reason, I did it with screenshots where I can click through, so it's much faster than hovering over a demo. What I want to show you is, first of all, I start with something you know. In the previous release, we introduced that the Aviator for remediating events and global Aviator. Might be a plural here. And now, and this is all for 24.4, now we are remediating events is now available in OBM in Optic 1, and Infra Observability. The global Aviator is now available in OBM and Optic 1. This is something which I just mentioned. I don't have any specifics here. You will see it on some of the slides indirectly. What I would like to show are things over here. So we have an enhanced remediation of events, and we create an instruction. And you remember there was one slide in OBM from events without Aviator, it was mentioned there, and with Aviator. And in this context, you will see how to summarize your conversation. You can also attach the remediation conversation as an annotation to the event with Aviator. What Harald also mentioned is that you can have your own knowledge base as a source, allowing Aviator to use this knowledge when answering questions. We haven't set it up in any slide or so because we used an existing one. This is described, of course, in the documentation. Was too fast. Okay. There are three scenarios. The first is create an instruction from event without Aviator. You have at the beginning, we always start with an event here. and we want to create an instructor, and this one is new. You click on create instruction, and then you will see on the next side that this page will appear. It's a new one, and initially it's empty. You have to fill something out, therefore you see the red asterisks. What is also, and therefore I put it in dotted line because we refer to this later, you can define here whether you would like to have a similarity to reference event. Yeah, event that are similar to the reference event above will be selected. So if you have this one, you find which depending on specific attributes, they will be selected. And for more information, of course, in the documentation, you have also an event filter, and you can wait. Is something we know that you say this combination is more considered than something else. Next step, you would create, click on create. And then the result would be, by the way, we are in the instructions management page, what was also in the OVM part. And then you see the result here and with the instruction. And when we go back to the event browser, you see that this event is now having an instruction. You find it over here. And yeah, this is the walkthrough for this part. And this is regarding the dotted line. Here we see that the similarity search applies. What you will see in a demo if we have more time, we have then two events. One is having nearly the same attribute that the first one. And here you see, here the similarity takes place. So the result is that also this one gets the same instruction. And then we have an event which has totally different, especially the title is different, attributes. And here the similarity search is resulting that there is no instruction. Yeah, so this is what you see as a result. Let's go to the next one, which is create an instruction from event with Aviator. And we start the other way around. We combine it. This one is an information which is provided by a customer knowledge base. Yeah, and we have here as example of one, a text which helps for a specific situation. Yeah, I said we don't show how to set it up because you can read it, but this is our reference here for a custom knowledge base element. Let's go back to this one. We start with our event, and then you see prominently here, this is not new, solve event with Aviator. And I wait a little bit with a demo, and then until I have this page here. And this is showing an information which we had before. Yeah. Okay, so this is relevant. And in the next part, I would say I'm not content with the result. I would like to have further add-on questions. And I can do this because here I have the possibility to ask additional questions. I would add something here, and then I narrow the result. What I do in addition is I can summarize the instruction from the instruction from the conversation, so that I have a summary later on. I do this by clicking on this one here. And this one would then be the summary. And this is the one, when we compared this with the very first one, this is the information received from the custom knowledge base. Yeah. And this is now our summary. I would like to use it, and then I have to save it. And then at the end, you see this one here. This is what you have, what you want to have in your instruction. Optional is you can also, of course, change something here. Yeah. And we are back to what we saw before, similarity, and then we say create. This is the way we create using Aviator. The third one is that we want to attach a conversation as annotation with Aviator. Our starting point here, you see there is no annotation, and we start with the Aviator button, and I waited a bit, and you see the result over here. And what I would like to do is I would like to attach the conversation as annotation. So therefore I click on this button here, and it's resulting, and when you select then in the details part, the annotation, then this is our example here. And you see that it's coming here. And what you can also do, if you have a ticket system, you could also then forward this. This is nothing new. This is, we have this, it's material, but you can also use this in this context. Okay, that's for the aviator. The next one is the automatic event correlation. Don't send old correlation events to OVM. We added the new settings on the AEC tuning page for the maximum correlation age. We have here 90. In case of a transient incident like an upgrade or an outage, AC will no longer send the correlation events older than the maximum correlation age. So here we have it 90 minutes, and this is the default maximum one. Having said this, I would like to hand over to Malini.
Let us look into the details of the OBA features that we have for 24.4. So the first one being a few customer enhancements to improve the user experience. We have metric correlation. So previously we had seen that the metric correlation was done for all the metrics. And if we had huge number of metrics, it was very difficult for us to choose the metric of choice and then go ahead with that correlation. So here, now we provide this metric correlation for a particular metric. We can choose the metric for which we would want to correlate, and then we would be able to see those events in the pane. The second one being severity by default for log messages. So earlier customer had to choose the severity which was displayed for each anomaly host, and this was, as this is one of the important fields to gauge the importance of the log, this is now available in the pane, in the view pane we have. So here we can see that severity comes by default. Severity is displayed by default on the pane. So moving ahead. We have a new content pack for RTSM for the topology enhancements. So in the previously, I would want to talk about how this was done previously. The adapter was called with update for delta sync and create for a full sync. And usually when this the OBA did not allow update if the service did not exist on OBA yet, and update would fail to create if the service already existed. So the current content with the current content pack, if the service does not exist on OBA, the delta sync will create the service with all the related CI, and the full sync will create the service with all the, so there is no change there. So the full sync will also create a service with all the related CI. And with respect to the, when the topology sync, if service exists on OBA, so the newly added CI will be added to OBA service, and no CIs will be deleted. And with respect to full sync, the CIs will be added to the OBA, and it will be the removed CIs will be deleted from the OBA service as such. Now we'll look at a few reporting features that we have, or the new reporting dashboards that we have. So with respect to the OPSP reporting, we have a few out-of-the-box reports. The first one being the enhanced BPM executive summary report, followed by layer isolation, and also executive summary report and the detailed drill down reports for WebSphere and Active Directory. Let us look into details of what we have with respect to each of these reports. The first one is the synthetic executive summary report. This is basically the report which can be launched without using the APM UI. So you have it with the new, it is available as a new Flex report, and it gives a statistical overview of all the application, transaction, and locations that are monitored by OBM. And we all know that this report provides a single pane view for applications, transactions, locations, BTFs, and the data is consolidated from the BPM data store, data source, and it is available on OpticDL. This is how the synthetic. This is how we can launch the synthetic monitoring reports. It is available under the business application, synthetic monitoring, and we do have all the available synthetic reports. So we can launch the synthetic executive summary from this location. So this report, we see that it is, we will be able to filter it by the business service application, and all the top end are displayed. So basically it's top 5 that is available by default. And also we do have a drill down to the transaction summary from the application name. So here we have the application summary, which gives the availability, performance, total errors and volumes. So we can drill down into the application summary to see the transaction summary report. So the next screen takes us to the transaction summary report, and in the transaction summary report, we do see that we have the transaction, the various transactions that are there in the application. And for the selected transaction, we do have the transaction response time, the overtime transaction response time, and also the average availability, and the error count is also displayed. And in the bottom, we do see that we have a location detail report, wherein we have the location details as well as errors by location and errors by category. So this will allow us to drill down into the location detail report for the selected transaction. So once we drill down into the location detail, this is how it looks like. So we do have various locations listed, and the location response time for the time period selected, and also the error distribution by error ID. So moving ahead, the next report we have is the synthetic layer isolation report. The synthetic layer isolation report is used by the application and service owners to isolate the area of application with any performance issue. So it will allow us to look into the layers where more processing time is spent. This is also an out-of-the-box report, and which allows us to compare the average response time for the transaction. So let us look at this. Is also we can see that we have the context-based layer isolation report. So we will be able to search based on the application, transaction, and location. So here we can see that this is the layer isolation report over a period, and it does specify the response time at every layer, and we should be able to troubleshoot and decide on or analyze the response time spent for each of the layer. So the next report that we would talk about is the Active Directory Executive Summary report. So this is an OBR equivalence report that is available for Active Directory, and this is also available out of the box. And we do see that this offers a report based on the domain controllers for all the data sources of the Active Directory, that is Active Directory MP. The data is collected and stored in OpticDL. So looking how do we launch? So this is available under infrastructure, enterprise application, and then we have Microsoft application and the Active Directory Executive Summary report. So the Executive Summary report looks like this. So here it is filtered by the Active Directory, domain controller, and time period. And here we see that we do have a drill down to the Active Directory server as well as the domain controller server. So once we drill down into the Active Directory detail report, so this is how it looks like. It gives us the various availability and the performance related graphs for over a period of time selected. And this is the domain controller detail report. So from the executive summary, when we select the domain controller we want, it gives us the availability and the performance over a period of time. The next report that we have is the WebSphere Application Summary Report, and this allows the Operations Center managers and the application administrator to have a single pane of view of all the application health, availability, and performance of the WebSphere application. The data is collected from the WebSphere data source and consolidated on OpticDL. How do we launch this report? This report is available under infrastructure, web application server, and IBM and the WebSphere executive summary report is available for us here. So this is how the executive summary report looks like. So this can be filtered with respect to the business service, CI collection, and the time period. It has an inventory section which talks about the node count, the application server count, and the applications that are impacted, and the availability, top 10 availability basically. And then we have drill down into the infrastructure summary inventory report from the application server availability. And we also have various drill down into the other categories that we look at, that is with respect to the service availability, the JVM utilization, the JDBC details, the thread pools, servlet details, and also the EJB details can be provided. So the report by default shows the top 5. We can set the top 5, top N as per our requirement. This is a sample thread pool details we have. So we do see that it gives us the thread pool count over a time, then the active versus the total thread pool, and the maximum versus used thread pools. Then we have the JVM detail report, which gives us both the utilization over time, as also the JVM heap size used and free overtime report. Then we have the EJB performance over time, and as well as the EJB call versus the response time report. The next report that we have is the JDBC detail report, which talks about the JDBC utilization, the pool size count against the pool wait time. Then we also have the pool size, maximum available versus the used pool size. Then we have the WebSphere availability detail report, so how it has been available for over a period of time. Then the WebSphere servlet detail report, which gives us the average response time over a period of time. We also have, we have enabled the application process metrics from OA. So the we can now enable the we can monitor and collect application process metric on the infrastructure to verify the performance of application. And all this data is currently stored in the ODL, and we can use the data to create our own reports. So moving ahead, we will now look into the enhancements that we have with respect to the infrastructure observability. So the first one that we would speak about is the hyperscale observability. We have been adding more and more AWS services for monitoring, and also the overview dashboards for the same. So in the same process, we do have out of the box dashboards for the ASG, that is the auto scaling group, and the S3 services of AWS. So the overview dashboard gives us the inventory and inventory availability, performance, and the top 10 metrics based on the metric usage. So how we can access this is, once we have configured cloud monitoring, under cloud monitoring, we do have AWS, and under AWS, we do have all the overview reports or the overview dashboards that we would be looking at. Let us look into details of how a ASG service dashboard looks like. So we all know that the ASG is basically EC2 auto scaling group service dashboard, and this particular dashboard not only gives us the inventory details with respect to the groups available, number of accounts, and the regions across the groups. It also gives how many groups are in service and what is the capacity that is used, along with the standby groups and the capacity that is used by the standby groups. Then we also have the hierarchical distribution of the groups. So here we can see that it does have account, region, and groups, along with the top 10 groups based on the capacity used for both in-service and standby. Moving ahead, we do have the capacity distribution for the groups. So we do see that the details of the assigned capacity, the top 10 groups by assigned capacity versus the capacity used. So we do have the graphs here. Then the performance metrics, this lists all the performance metrics of all the groups. So once the group names are here, we have to select the group so that the context is set for the instance of that particular group, and it does give us the in-service, pending, standby, terminating instances of a particular group. And we also have the performance based on the capacity of the group selected. We have a group list in the dashboard. So here we do see there is the list. The group list specifies the group with the various details about the group. And we also have a link to the EC2 instance from here. So once you click on the EC2 instance, it does specify the number of EC2 instances that are associated with the group. And once we click on that, it does take us to the instance ID. And from there, we will be able to go into the drill down into the instance detail report, which gives us the entire details of the selected instance. Yeah. The next dashboard that we have is the AWS S3 service. So this dashboard, sorry, I had moved. This dashboard provides us insights into the storage usage and the activity trends of the S3 buckets. So as we see that the inventory provides us with the bucket details with respect to how many buckets across how many accounts and regions we have, and the daily storage metrics of the buckets is also specified. And with respect to the details of the inventory, we have an hierarchical info of the account, region, the type of the bucket owner, and the bucket which is available here. And then we do have metrics with respect to the details of the activity. So if we see that for the selected bucket, we will see the number of the bucket size and the number of objects over a period of time. The dashboard also has the S3 bucket by request. So when we say the buckets, the top 10 buckets are displayed, and for the selected bucket, it does show the overtime report of the selected one. And then we have the S3 bucket by the request latency. So here we see that the top 10 buckets are selected, and the graph for the selected bucket shows the total latency and the first byte latency of the selected one. Then we have the bucket activity metrics, which gives us the top 10 buckets based on the data transfer on for upload and download, and the overtime report of the selected bucket. The details of the bucket with respect to the total error count is also available. Then we have the S3 bucket with respect to the select operation, and then we have the bucket list, which displays the list of the buckets that we have and the information regarding the buckets with respect to the account, region, when was it created, who is the owner, and the storage class and versioning, etc. Now we will look at the Azure overview dashboards. With respect to Azure, we have introduced out-of-the-box dashboards for the virtual machine, SQL database, and the Azure SQL managed instances, which provides us the inventory, availability, performance, and the top 10 metrics based on the metric usage. The detailed documentation specifies as to what are the report dashboards that we have and what is available in the dashboard, and how do we access once we have the cloud. Under infrastructure cloud, we can go into the Azure capability, and the overview dashboards are available under that. So the first one that we will look at is the virtual machine inventory, the virtual machine dashboard. So the screen that you're seeing is the virtual machine service, and this particular part is the inventory one. And here you see the total number of the VM details, which has the total number of VMs, of which how many are active and how many are inactive. And then we do have total resources by subscription groups and location. And here we see that there is a trend available. So we also specify the trend of the current trend that is there with respect to the resource group for the instances. And then we have a data storage account detail for all the resources, and this is provided to us as a Sunburst chart. And we have there are multiple virtual machine metrics available. So all the metrics are available for us to choose. And once we select the metric that is of our choice, the context is set, and it would display the top 10 metric usage for the VM details or the VM machine services for that the top 10 CPU percentage in this case would be displayed. And then the bottom we can see that this is graphically represented. That is the overtime report of the top 10.
Warte mal die Carol, vielleicht weiß sie das. Ich weiß nicht.
And then we do have the VM service for the data disk metrics. This also, we do have all the data disk metrics, and for the selected one, it does give us the top 10 VM services along with the overtime report. Then we have the OS disk metrics. Then also the disk metrics. Then we have a resource list. So the resource list lists all the VM machine services here, and it has a drill down into the VM details report. So from the resource list, we will be able to go into the VM details to look at the details of the VM selected or the VM instance selected. Then we have the SQL database service. So the SQL database service, this provides us with a single pane view of Azure SQL real estate. So here we can see that we do have under the inventory, we do have the number of databases, the storage allocated, and how much of it is used. Then we also have the hierarchical view of the subscription, resource group, and the database. Then we have the subscription location and resource group in the second pane here, which also has a trend of the DB by the resource group. Then we have the service tier by capacity, whether it has been a standard or a premium service tier for the database. This is followed by database, the SQL database metrics details. So for the metrics for the SQL database available are listed here. So for the selected metrics, in my case, I have just highlighted CPU, but other metrics are also available. So for the selected metric, we do show the top 10 metric usage with respect to CPU. So all the DB instances with the highest CPU usage will be listed along with the overtime report. And moving forward, moving forward, we do have the other details with respect to the database failed connection reports for the selected database. How many connections have been failed and successful are listed, and the TempDB metrics are also available. So the TempDB metrics, depending on what metric is chosen, the top 10 database for the selected metric usage is listed along with the overtime report. So moving ahead, we do have the next one that we have is the SQL managed instances. So for the SQL managed instances, we see that we have the details of the distribution with respect to instances, how much of the storage is reserved for it against how much is used. And then we do have the total instance breakdown by subscription, resource groups, and location, and also a sunburst chart which gives us the allocated vCos across the distribution of our SQL instances. And the dashboard also has metrics, the list of metrics, the various available metrics for the managed instances are listed. And for the selected one, it gives us the top 10 managed instances, and the overtime report for the same is also displayed below. Then we do, sorry, we do have managed instances. Then we have this instance list. So from here, we should be able to get into the instance of the database. So that is also possible. Yeah. Moving ahead, we will look at the enhancements for agentless monitoring. In agentless monitoring, now we will be able to copy monitors across groups asynchronously. So this will be a quick turnaround for us to bring up another instance similar to the existing monitoring tree structure. And also it allows us to structurally organize the monitors using the UI, which is pretty easy for us. So you can see that we can just do a right click and the copy option. We do have this copy option here, and then we can copy and paste the monitor and monitor or the monitor group, and then asynchronously the structure is available for us to use. The next feature that we have with agentless monitoring is the quick report summary tables. So we would want to see the table of reports for the monitors with respect to the uptime, measurement summary, and the measurement graphs. So this is available as a part of the quick report on Sitescope. So this is available. So once we click on the quick report, the report is generated for the selected monitor. And this is what it specifies. That is, okay, here the monitor name is CPU and the monitor type that we have selected, and the metric with respect to the utilization for that particular monitor is displayed. Then coming to the enhancements for Sitescope, we see that now we will be able to monitor the REST API monitor by adding the payload for request and authentication. And this is available in the UI itself for us. So we do see that the UI does allow us to add the payload in the body for request and authentication. The next one that we have is the mutual TLS authentication support for the URL monitor. So now we do support the mutual authentication, and this can, the option is available for the user to select from the UI, and we just have to configure the type of authentication. So this checkbox is available. So we can select the MTLS, and then we will be able to have the mutual authentication enabled for the URL monitoring. We also support the SHA authentication for SNMP monitors. So we do see here that the various SNMP authentication protocols or algorithms are available. So based on our requirement, we will be able to choose. So as Thomas has already mentioned that now OA has basic authentication enabled by default. So Sitescope, which uses the latest OA, will now have a secure communication to send metrics from Sitescope to OpticDL. So this is also enabled from the Sitescope end. If we are using the latest OA, we will be able to use the basic authentication and send data from Sitescope to OpticDL. Yeah, I think that brings end to what I had to speak about. Thomas, can you take over?
Yes. Okay. Do you see the screen?
Yes, I do see a screen, Thomas.
Okay. So welcome to the last section, the application observability. Moving here. So with the release 24.4, we still have application observability available in SaaS only. There's no change regarding this, but there are a lot of new things. And you find some which you already heard from Harald. First of all, you see integration with synthetic monitoring, mentioned by Harald. Then we have an actionable applications landing page. We do changes here. We have enhancement in Trace Explorer. We have other integrations with infrastructure observability and cloud network observability. And we have Metric Explorer enhancements. Nearly all slides are containing notes explaining the slides. So also when I do walkthroughs, they are explained in the slides. So you'll find more information there. Let's start with integration with synthetic monitoring, sorry. This is a recap to bring everyone on the same stage who might not work with BPM. BPM, we call this synthetic monitoring, collects and analyzes application response time and availability from many locations. It comes with web-based transaction breakdown reports that primarily measures transaction reports time broken down by, and then you see two screenshots here where you see the different steps which are gone through. Yeah, just a different way of showing it. I kept both here. This one, the time to first buffer, this is the server time to first buffer. This is a good indicator of the web server delays. Yeah, this is something we're concentrate on. So far we have this BPM, and now the application observability comes into the game, and it does root cause analysis, as you know, and it does it in the context with BPM, with synthetic monitoring, by correlating synthetic transactions to OpenTelemetry traces. Yeah, you know, OpenTelemetry is underlying or is used, and application observability without OpenTelemetry doesn't function. And it's mostly about traces, logs, and metrics. And it allows to go deeper, diving deeper into the execution of the system. We'll have a look into this. This is one of the flows where it's also in the notes as described. I'm sure when you have seen previous webinars, release readiness webinars, you show the basic structure here, and I only want to highlight what is changed. So what you always need, that the developer instruments the application, and in this case, the application, which is also monitored by BPM, and therefore the instrumentation captures BPM specific HTTP request headers. We will see them later on. This will be captured as span. Span is trace data attributes. This one will be provided to the application, the microservice, and then the application deployed to the Kubernetes or VM as an example. And it gets here and gets to the collector, which is deployed before. Yeah, so the information coming here into collector. Let's first follow this route, number 4, the green one. And here, as I said, traces, metrics, and logs are collected, and they're exported to the OpenText application observability. In addition, when you look at this one here, we use BPM Vuegen test scripts, they are enabled with, and this is a little bit confusing, so I have to say something about this. When you see the BPM page, then there was from old time, there was a checkbox for the old diagnostic products. This was reused, but not in terms that the real diagnostic needs to be used, but it's like what is behind is a tech where you say, I want to have this, I want to inject special HTTP headers. So there's nothing to do with diagnostic, it's just the box which is used, and this will change, of course, in the future. This was a quick way to do it. Okay, this is the first one given to BPM. And then this runs synthetic tests in the application microservices, as it did before. But now what we also have, we have the second string here which is going out, and the synthetic test results, they're exported to OpenText application observability. And then we see later on that we have a combination of both, that from the transactions, we have the related traces. Yeah? And this is the one which we need for getting into deep root cause analysis. And the last one, don't know why it's 7, configured application, OpenText application observability, and starts observing this. Yeah? Because this is in SaaS, so you need a specific person who's doing this. A little bit to look on the time. Okay, and this one is maybe it's not the nicest screenshot. Important that this is status over time page, and it's showing BPM transaction over time. Yeah, we don't go into detail of the BPM report, which is not new. But what is new is we have a link view traces, and this is relating to the integration with application observability. And we see the result on the next page. You end up in application observability, and you end up in the tab traces. And you have a filter. In this case, we have this one. And remember, we had said it's about HTTP headers. And this is one of the headers. In the hidden slides, there is a list of all the headers which are available. And in the documentation, you'll find the details. And this is where this part, Mercury BA, it's an old one for Mercury, had this information here. Yeah, this is a trace filtered by the synthetic transaction. And this is the result in here. We go deeper over time, just that you see the basic link here. Actionable application landing page. This is the way you know, this is the part you know, this is where you have the applications found under business application, and here under application is like a table, you have the configuration possibilities, but what is missing, you cannot directly go, for example, to trace groups. Yeah, you always have to use different steps. This is changed in the new version, and the old version still exists. Yeah, you have both versions side by side. The new version is accessible via business application. And here is also the application names. And what is different, we have the trace group and traces, just numbers, but we also have the trace group volume. And you can hover over the different trace groups, and then you find this information and to find the inspect traces. When this is not where you see this one, this overview here. And when you click on it, then you have this selected and you see more information about microservices, traces, logs, and metrics. So this way is a little bit like the first one, but the other one, the direct link is new. Yeah? And all the structure is new. Okay. Coming back to this one, when you click on inspect traces, then you come to the page which you know from previous sessions where you can find the trace information. Okay. There are some enhancements in the Trace Explorer. First of all is, we hope you can read this one, 10,000 trace limit exceeded, showing sample data. What does it mean? When you're dealing with transaction IDs, and you have a lot of them, 10,000, 100,000 you could have. And if you don't do any kind of filtering, the system would get stuck over time. So what happens is when there is more than 10,000, then there's special sample mechanism. checking which kind of information, which kind of, in this, for example, transaction IDs are there, and they correlate them, and they end up in the documentation is that the best way to keep everything running, and you have a reduced number of traces, but they are representative. Yeah, and this here enables you to really keep on working if there are a lot of transactions, for example. This is for 2 hours. So you can imagine when you use this for 12 hours, it's much higher. So you see here that the sample is different. We come to this filter in one of the next slides. And first of all, want to look at the attributes themselves. What we here have is application on service. And this is new that we have purely this one. And what is new is we have within here, we have new values. And it's more flexible than before. And here we introduced also the trace state, for example, the information which are necessary in order to have this integration happen. Sorry, I was too fast. I was here, going here. So, and another part, what you can do when you have the trace ID, then it's the values over here, and you can filter them by the normal filter, which reduces the number of values. You get a subset of values, and this way you end up, for example, in one specific one, which I selected here, and then you only have information on this particular trace. Then to the next integration part, it's infrastructure observability and cloud network observability. The infrastructure observability is there to perform root cause analysis of problems associated with on-premise Kubernetes, AWS Kubernetes EKS, AWS EC2, and AWS RDS. These are the ones which are currently supported. Yeah? The cloud network observability, they're there to perform root cause analysis of problems associated with networks in AWS. And now we combine both of these with application observability. Scenarios supported as applications running in this particular part as reference. Now you find this, and here you see more detailed. We go back to this flowchart, and now it's a little bit different. So what we have to do for this instrumentation, we go to for the AWS applications, they are instrumented with AWS distribution of OpenTelemetry. Yeah? And this is, as before, provided to the application, microservice 1, 2, and it's deployed to the environment. And on this side, where we had the collector deployed in customer's environment, in Kubernetes collector is configured with the KAS attribute processor. This information, of course, you find in the documentation. The principle is the same, just the way how you do it is different. So this is then here's the collector. And what is different compared to the one before is we have here on the network observability side, we configure the network probes for AWS and the network probes for network testing. And this information goes into the OpenCore cloud network observability. And here then, this is what we know from before, that we have traces, metrics, and coming from application observability and ending here. And here then there's an integration between both by the SaaS op team. So we will see that also here we have then at the end, we have traces, which enables to go deeper into the application problem. Example, trace details. We see here you have Kubernetes. So you can, for example, cross-launch infrastructure observability KAS dashboards to view infrastructure health. You have on the other side, regarding database, possibility to cross-launch to infrastructure observability and AWS RDS dashboards to view infrastructure health. And you have here a cross-launch to the cloud network observability. So this is a powerful combination here that you then can look for more information or more details. the last thing, and we are only a little bit over time, this one. We saw this before, that we had the filter, but there's more here. So what we have is, let's start from bottom to top. We have a conditional group. So you see the different colors here. So this one outside marks the conditional group, condition group. And within the condition group, you can have more conditions one after the other. And they all, of course, are combined either with or and. And it's, of course, up to you that it makes sense in the way you do it. Yeah, you can, of course, create logics which at the end doesn't make sense. So the system is not controlling this. Yeah. What is new also that is numeric operators, and we have this filter is none of. This is helpful because if you maybe don't know exactly what you're looking for, but you know what you're not looking for, you can reduce the number of traces. And though this is a very helpful new possibility. And the last one what we introduced here was, you know, from previously we had the rate of change, and now we have also average, so that a number of different, for example, transactions will be averaged over time. I think this is the last slide. And so we come to open questions. Malini, haven't looked into it, but what is the status of the questions? Are most of them answered?
Yeah, there is one question with respect to the naming convention. So the operations cloud is a new name for hyperscale observability. Is that true? That is, somebody is asking that. So Thomas?
Yeah, I
Do you
listened.
want to? Yeah.
We can.
Regarding the new naming convention,
I can check. I
yeah,
have a
this
list
comes
here.
under. Yeah, this comes under. Yeah, this one. This comes under the infrastructure observability. One moment. It is the core infrastructure observability, and the cloud aspect of it is the hyperscale observability.
1 second, I just look. I have a list where you can see old and news. It's an internal list, of course. So
Yes.
it was Operations Cloud, yeah?
Yeah.
Not quite sure whether it's in here.
So the earlier name was infrastructure observability. Now it is called as the OpenText core infrastructure observability. So hyperscale observability would come under that, and it will be a part of the cloud monitoring. But I can confirm from the PM as to what is going to be the exact name change for that, and then update the query. So whether it will be called as Operations Cloud or it will still be Hyperscale Observability, I think we will confirm on that and let you know.
I will check. Any other question? If you would like to ask a question, we learned this morning that you first have to unmute yourself, and then we have to unmute you, and the best is then you raise your hand that we know that you want to be unmuted. Sorry, this is a complicated procedure.
Yeah, I would stop the recording for now, Thomas.
Thank you.
People can,
thank you much for participating.